Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for coming to this presentation. Let me introduce the members of Group A. They are Siti Munawaroh, Siti Selawati, Nurjanah, and Tessy Yunnisa. In this presentation, we will discuss about United Nations Security Council.
For the first definition of the United Nations Security Council. The United Nations Security Council is one of the 6 main bodies of the United Nations, which was founded in 1945 by high-ranking United Nations officials, which now has its headquarters in New York, United States. Next, the authority of the United Nations chartered to the Security Council. Among them is number 1, investigate any situation that threatens world peace. Number 2, recommending procedures for peaceful dispute resolution. Number 3, asks all United Nations member states to cut off economic relations as well as sea, air, post, radio communication, or diplomatic relations. And number 4, enforce Security Council decision militarily or by other means. For the next materials about the duties and functions of the United Nations Security Council. The main task and function of the United Nations Security Council is to maintain international security and peace. The duties and functions of the Security Council are executed in 2 ways. The first is the settlement with peace, and the second is the act of coercion.
Thank you, moderator. My name is Tessy Yunnisa. I will discuss about membership in United Nations. This council has 5 permanent members and 10 arbitrary members. And then 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council and have veto rights, namely 1. China, 2. France, 3. Russia, 4. England, 5. United States. And non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council are elected on the basis of geographic or regional terms with a term of 2 years is 1. African group, about 3 seats. 2. Asia Pacific group, about 2 seats. 3. East European group, about 1 seat. 4. Latin America, about 2 seats. And 5. Western Europe and other, about 2 seats. Here are 10 non-permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, namely 1. Estonia, 2. India, 3. Irlandia, 4. Kenya, 5. Mexico Latin, 6. Nigeria, 7. Norway, 8. Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, 9. Tunisia, 10. Vietnam. Okay, point D, supporting body of the United Nations Security Council to assist in carrying out its duties. The Security Council has the power to establish a support body. Supporting bodies of the Security Council, namely 1. counter terrorism and non-proliferation committee, or CTC, was established under the Security Council result, which was approved unanimously on September 28. 2 is Military Staff Committee. The Military Staff Committee is the United Nations Security Council's support body whose role, as defined in the United Nations Charter, is to plan United Nations military operations and assist in the regulation of weapons. And point 3, Sanction Committee. The Sanction Committee was formed under a United Nations Security Council resolution which has sanctions against its decision. The Sanction Committee for Libya, according to resolution, should monitor the implementation of the sanction. Point 4. On information regarding suspected violation or on non-compliance with the step taken in this resolution. And point 4 is Standing Committee and Ad hoc Committee. Standing Committee and Ad hoc Committee that are formed as needed on specific issue. For example, the Security Council Committee on New Member Administration and the Ad hoc Working Group on Conflict Prevention in Africa. Okay, for number 5, Operation Peace. United Nations peace operation have countries that are in conflict to create conditions of peace. Number 6 is International Court of Justice. The United Nations Security Council established 2 international tribunals to try serious crime committed during the war. And the last point is the Peace Building Commission. The Peace Building Commission is the only advisory body to the United Nations Security Council. The Commission is an intergovernmental advisory body supporting peacekeeping efforts in developing countries that are in conflict.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay everyone, I'm Siti Selawati, and for now I'll describe the materials about forms of sanctions imposed by the United Nations on member states that don't comply with the Charter. Okay, the United Nations or UN has 6 main agencies. One of them is the Security Council. The Security Council has the powers granted by the members of the United Nations to maintain international peace and security. And as the recipients of the mandate, the UN Security Council must take necessary actions in realizing international peace and security as contained in Article 24 paragraph 1 of the Charter. This shows that even though the Security Council has only 15 members, every action it takes is on behalf of all UN members. For the sake of creating international peace and security, the UN Security Council takes two approaches, namely the peaceful settlement of international disputes and the settlement of disputes by force. Okay, the next traditional peaceful dispute resolution methods, as set out in Article 33 of the Charter, are basic measures for the settlement process. Like the first is negotiation. Negotiation is the most common way to resolve disputes. This method involves direct discussion between the disputing parties with the aim of reaching an agreement, and the second is good services are the only dispute resolution efforts that are not contained in Article 33 of the Charter but are often used by UN agencies. Services either involve assistance from third parties or countries that are not parties to the dispute. Third parties, in providing their good services, can only offer a channel of communication or convenience for the parties concerned, but don't offer any advice on the terms of settlement. The third is mediation is a method of settlement through a third party, which can be a country, international organizations, or individual. The third party also participates in the negotiation carried out by the disputing parties. And the fourth is conciliation is a method of peaceful settlement of disputes by an organ that has been formed previously or later on the agreement of the disputing parties. The fifth is investigation. Is a process of establishing a peace mission consisting of a neutral group of investigators. And the next or the sixth is arbitration. Is a voluntary submission to a neutral third party, and a decision issued is final and binding. And the seventh is settlement of disputes under the supervision of the UN is determined by the basic objectives of the United Nations and the obligations of its members. One of the basic goals of forming the UN is the peaceful settlement of disputes between countries. One of the obligations of UN members is that they must refrain from threatening war or using violence. The role of the UN in peaceful dispute resolution can be carried out through political and legal settlements. Political dispute resolution is carried out by the General Assembly and the Security Council, while legal dispute resolution is carried out by the International Court of Justice. And for the last is legal settlement. Is a process for submitting disputes to the International Court of Justice to obtain a decision. The next, if the disputing countries don't reach an agreement to resolve the dispute peacefully, perhaps the solution is through violent means. There are the first is war and non-war armed action. War and non-war actions aim to conquer the opposing country and to impose conditions for settlement, and the conquered country has no alternative but to comply. Not every armed conflict is called a war. A dispute is considered a war, and the law of where can be applied is determined by the following, like the first, the magnitude of the conflict, and the next, the objectives of the disputing parties, and the attitudes and reactions of the third parties. So, where is an armed conflict that meets certain requirements, that is, the disputing party is a state and is accompanied by a declaration of war, while armed conflict is not war, it is armed conflict which doesn't fulfill the condition is stabilized for war. And the next, or the second, is retortion, is a technical term for retaliation by a country against inappropriate, in, inappropriate or improper acts by another country. The revenge is carried out in the form of unfriendly legal actions in state honor conference whose honor has been insulted. For example, the breakdown of diplomatic relations, revocations of diplomatic privilege. The third is retaliation, is a method used by countries to seek compensation from other countries by carrying out acts of a retaliation nature. The difference between acts of retaliation and retortion is that retaliation includes action that can generally be said to be illegal, while retortion includes acts of retaliation that are justified by law. And the fourth is a peaceful blockade is an act carried out in peaceful times, sometimes classified as retaliation. Generally, it is aimed at compelling a country whose ports are blockaded to comply with requests for compensation for damages suffered by the blockading state. And the last is intervention, is a dictatorial intervention by a country against other domestic affairs with the good intention of maintaining or changing conditions, situation, or goods in that country. The methods for resolving disputes above, whether carried out peacefully or forcefully, are efforts to prevent wider conflicts that may disrupt international peace and security. However, if peaceful dispute resolution efforts fail and the parties to the conflict don't comply with the UN Charter, in particular, Chapter 4, which is to carry out action that threaten peace, violate peace, and the country continues to launch aggressions against other countries. Then the Security Council can impose sanctions on the country through a resolution. Sanctions that can be imposed on countries that don't comply with the UN Charter are in the form of economic sanctions, termination of economic relations, air, sea, radio, and other communications, either partially or completely, and sever diplomatic relations. Okay, maybe that's all from me. Thank you for your kind attention, and I hope that what I say can be understood by all of you. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello, I'm Siti Munawaroh. As the last speaker, we will discuss material about existence of the United Nations Security Council. As we know, the Security Council is one of the organs of the United Nations which is given the responsibility to carry out the objectives of the United Nations itself. namely maintaining international peace and security. As for what responsibilities delegated to the Security Council are contained in the United Nations Charter, Article 24, which is described in chapters 6, 7, 8, and 12. The core of this responsibility is to maintain international peace and security in accordance with the principles and objectives of the United Nations. As a form of its existence, the Security Council has a role in carrying out its responsibilities. Since 1945 until 1990, the United Nations has carried out dozens of operations to maintain international peace and security, involving hundreds of thousands of troops, both military, police, and civilian. There have been more than 150 armed conflicts that have claimed tens of millions of human lives and material loss of up to billions of dollars. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. That's all presentation that we can deliver. Thank you for your listening. May all those we have shared be beneficial for all of us. And the last, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.